Welcome. My name is Sue, and I will be your host for this afternoon's second installment of We the Youth, You the People Town Hall series. We have a great lineup for you today to discuss mental health. I hope you'll join the conversation. That the Town Hall is our platform to talk about important matters that will shape the youth agenda for NYC youth. So the topic is mental health, and I'll be reviewing the agenda with y'all today. So community guidelines, we'll be going through community guidelines, what is mental health, present the data, speak up with youth experts and Q&A, expression with a purpose, dropping gems, calling to action, and a closing. So community guidelines, we will be respectful of one another, have an open mind, feel safe to share our thoughts, not judge anyone. If you have a question, drop it in the chat in all caps. And if you guys agree with our community guidelines, drop it in the chat. Let us know what we should add and what we should think about for further town halls. So what is mental health? Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of our lives, from childhood to adolescent throughout adulthood. Have any one of you guys ever felt or ever had an emotional experience with psychological or social trauma? Feel free to type yes or just drop thumbs up in the comments, or just be open. This is nothing to be ashamed about, and the reason we're here today to talk about mental health and how y'all are doing. Next. I would like to introduce to you Amara, who is a youth participant from Staten Island's Urban Youth Center. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
can you tell us about a video? Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
yeah, hi. Can you tell us about the video that you are about to share?
Yeah, sure. Well, hi, I'm Amara Cordero from the Staten Island Urban Center, and I'm going to be sharing a video with you from the Staten Island Urban Center and the youth workers. And basically in this video, what we're doing is we're showing how, although COVID happened and we weren't able to physically meet with each other, we still worked together outside of, where we usually met. And we worked virtually to still continue to focus on what was going on in the world, including the pandemic and all of the mental issues that we were facing. Because a lot of people during this time when everything first happened, it was just a major shock, because no one knew what was happening or what was going to happen. And I know from personal experience that this took a major toll on my mental well-being and my mom's as well. So yeah, in this video, we just show you what we were doing during this time when we couldn't meet physically, but we still met virtually and did whatever we could to continue our program. And yeah, I think that's it.
As we enter into a post-COVID-19 world, our practice of youth development through youth involvement has become key in assisting young people transition from life standing still, quarantine in their homes or places of shelter, to a world where they're truly being asked to pretend to be normal, to come out but be socially distant, to wear a mask but don't breathe, to operate in imaginary bubbles of space but don't burst it, where smiles are hidden by masks and hugs no longer exist. We worked with over 100 youth this spring and summer on a 100% virtual platform, and here is a glimpse of their new normal.
That was very powerful. I'm not even gonna lie. I feel like this is such a topic that we need to talk about, especially because we're quarantined up and we're not seeing like what our normal lives look like and like the effect that it has on us and mentally. And I think that was really dope that you wanted to take that initiative and make that, video and speak up about it. Yeah, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Where can we find the entire video and learn more about your organization? Drop the link in the chat.
Okay, yeah. Basically all of like the video sources are, well, basically there's Kelly Villar, and she helps us with all of like our video planning and all of our activity planning, and she works for the Staten Island Urban Center. So I believe, I'm not sure if they have a website yet, but anything Staten Island Urban Center related, you can find the videos online.
Can I ask you how you got into this, how you got into, wanting to do this?
Yeah, of course.
A little more?
Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay, so I'm currently a senior in high school, and my sophomore year of high school for the summer youth employment program, that's how I got into contact with Miss Kelly Villar. And after we had the program, because I had a lot of fun working with her that summer, is she just taught us so much about what's going on in the world and not just like inside of our little world. That makes sense.
Yeah, especially when you meet that person that kind of opens your mind to
Told
it.
me at the end of the program, hey, I have your ship there. Join. That sounds awesome. It's something for me to do. And I got really excited, and I've been working with her ever since then.
That's so cool. You kind of find those people like you don't even know that they're there, and you find them to help you out. Yeah, I appreciate you, and I appreciate that video. And if you could drop the link in the chat, and so everybody else could see it and amplify your voice. Okay. Next up we have Speak Up, the segment where youth experts react to data and discuss what mental health means to them and what they would like to include in the youth agenda. This is where you get a chance to give us your feedback. If you hear something you like, drop some fire in the comments, or better yet, just comment. Let us know what we're missing. Let me introduce the youth experts that will be joining us. So first we have Adam, Ali, Benton. We have Basanio, Ituk, and we have Carleni Ramos. I'm so sorry if I pronounce anyone's name incorrectly. My full name is Sawad, and everyone pronounces it wrong, so I changed it to Sue. So sorry. Thank you. Okay, so, what does the data say? What does the data tell us about young people's experience with mental health and data sources? I'm sorry, my thing.
I can hear you, Sue.
Oh, okay. Adverse childhood experiences, ACE, is the term used throughout the data to define young people's trauma as it relates to mental health experiences. Just under 45% of children in the US have experienced at least one ACE. 1 in 10 children nationally has experienced 3 or more ACEs, putting them in the especially high risk category. Nationally, 61% of Black non-Hispanic children and 51% of Hispanic children have experienced at least one ACE, compared with 40% of white non-Hispanic children and only 23% of Asian non-Hispanic children. Youth depression rates by Burrow and race ethnicity in 2019, rank and location. In New York City, the Asian percentage was 33.5%. The Black percentage was 33.6%. The Latino was 39.2%, and the white percentage was 30.6%. So this is our Q&A. Does anything presented by the data surprise you? Why or why not? And this is for anyone. And even in the comments, if y'all want to let us know.
Honestly, I'm particularly surprised by the number, 45%. That is a high percentage. And it's, again, like you said earlier, it's not something that we think about often because we don't talk about these numbers. We don't talk about mental health enough in our community. So I for certain, I am definitely happy to get this information right now because I didn't know this.
Yeah, some of this info is kind of like hidden, you know, like unless you really look for it and you search for it, you're not gonna get it. Anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you guys. Mental health is something that's most of the time pushed aside when it comes to youth. And seeing those percentages, it just kind of like, it gets the vision like, wow, we really need to do something about it. You know, the youth need to speak up about how we feel and what we go through and just overall just fix the things that's making it wrong.
Right, and I think it's really dope that everybody wants to come here and actually talk about mental health and talk about like the ways that we can help each other and how we can help our communities throughout the data that we find. But in regards to mental health, do you know where to find mental health supports? Like, where do you go when you need that support, and who do you confide in, and how can we have that support?
Hello?
Go for it, Adam. Sorry.
Sorry. A lot of the support that I've found, like you have to reach out through like the internet. I found a lot like hotlines, just a lot of research. It's not a lot given to me. It's more I had to go seek it out, which is difficult for a lot of young people to they don't even know like that they need the help to even go and seek out that help. That's it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Adam. You're so right. Most people don't think there's anything wrong and don't realize it until sometimes it's too late. So, you know, like you mentioned, we don't even know it to begin doing the work that we need for ourselves. And sometimes even taking that first step of Googling is kind of like scary. You have to actually admit to yourself that you have a problem. And nobody likes to admit that they have a problem, especially not a mental one, because we tend to make it seem like a negative thing. Like, oh, you have mental issues. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the first thing that comes to mind when people hear mental health. So I'm glad the conversation is definitely changing and the conversation is definitely taking place.
Right. I totally agree. I think that like that is like the first step. And I think if y'all search out for that support, y'all receive that support. But have like, cause you touched on it, have attitudes towards mental health issues in your community stopped you from seeking service and support?
Yeah. It's stigmatized a lot, especially again with young black men a lot. You get called crazy. You get like that's like white people stuff. So it's hard to like want to get help if like you think you don't need it, or like I'm black, so I have to just work through it like everyone else did by myself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Adam. Like, especially in the Black and Hispanic communities, if you see a therapist, most of the time in the communities, oh, therapy is for people with mental health issues, or you're crazy if you go to therapy, and that's not what it is and what it's not. And I feel like that's exactly why a lot of us just take everything in by ourselves, and that's why a lot of the percentages are really high because of the stigmatization. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we fix that? How can we be able to be comfortable with getting that support and not like allow this type of way of feeling like it's negative to have that support or think that there is something that might be wrong with you? How do we kind of break that barrier?
I think it. Oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Adam. No, you got this.
No, it's getting better. I feel like when I was in middle school, it was a lot worse. Since I've gotten older, I feel like just time in society is like. Hello?
Sorry, that was technical difficulties. You're good.
Oh, yeah, over time, it just gotten better with just society as a whole has kind of accepted every way of being and every type of lifestyle. And I think just over time, it will get better to the point where you're not called crazy for seeking help or just trying to be normal.
I would also like to chime in. Youth centers, like, for me, it was Grand Street Cinnamon. So finding a youth center or finding a center or a community that you're comfortable speaking to someone, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an adult, it can be someone who has resources or is capable based on knowledge of actually giving you the right information, because sometimes it's as simple as just talking to somebody. Sometimes we just need to express the feelings that we have. So to answer your question in short, just finding a center or space or person that you actually trust, that you can communicate your feelings to, and that person can then be able to provide the resources that you need.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I like that. It doesn't just have to be an adult. It can be or your friend. It can be someone that you confide in. Like I've always had like problems talking to a parent. Because I'm not with my parents. So I was like, well, who do I talk to if I don't have a parent? Who do I talk to if I don't have that grandma, that aunt? Or like that teacher that I trust, because sometimes school isn't my safe haven. So where can we go? And if you have that one friend, like I cherish my one best friend. I cherish that friend, and I tell her everything I can. And it's not like that's not normal. It doesn't have to be a therapist or like a psychologist or anything like that. It could be your best friend telling them how you feel, so you don't have to like bottle everything up. And if anyone wants to chime in and just help me out with that. But
you're absolutely right. I absolutely relate completely. I feel that same way about my sister / best friend, Fifi. I find that she was the only person that was actually able to like express and explain my emotions to, and in turn she would just like give me listening ears and some advice, and it was interchangeable. So again, like I mentioned previously, sometimes just expressing it verbally to one another and kind of like bouncing ideas of one each other, and you guys are able to do the research together, because we've been able to kind of like help ourselves through research, through watching the people we admire, through asking advisors questions, essentially like people that we admire that in a role that we want to be. We've been helping each other to take that joint journey together.
Definitely. I feel like just overall, just talking about it will definitely help us, move past it and fix the problems as well.
Yeah, I know a few places that, like, if there are any listeners or the audience wants to know, there is the doors that helped me a lot. I was in foster care, and the doors really helped me kind of like get SAT tutoring and like kind of have like a little safe haven and a little zone that you can go to. And there's always like places near you that you can kind of go to. Like, let's say I had a point where I didn't even have any friends. So like, where was I supposed to go? And join your organization, do something that you could kind of pass off the time, but also learn something. And from there, you could like work on your mental health, and you could try to like channel it. And I think that's really dope, because I know me and Carleni are in Teens Take Charge, and that's kind of like something that brought me that help that I needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Do you, since we're talking mental health, do you feel social media has impacted your mental health? If so, what are the ways?
Definitely. Overall, just when it comes to females and seeing like a lot of these Instagram models and stuff like that, I feel like it brings out a lot of insecurities, and it brings out like just you're supposed to be this type of person, or you're supposed to bring out this image, or you're supposed to look like this, or you're supposed to be like whatever society wants to be like. And I feel like it definitely takes a toll on mental health, because it's like you don't know who you are as yourself when you're trying to fit into society's norms. And just overall, social media definitely impacts it a lot, especially since everybody's connected on social media. Everybody is on social media every day. It's it definitely is an impact.
You're absolutely right, Carla. In regards to that, for me, it's more like I'll say like in the recent months, maybe like early last year and like late this year, just kind of like I would take like a hiatus because I would see other people's successes that they were like posting, and I was just like, well, I'm not where I want to be. So in a way, it's like it was another struggle because I'm like, well, am I being a hater for not wanting to see this, you know? But it was actually affecting me. So I would have to like take occasional breaks or longer breaks than usual just because I couldn't, unfortunately, stand to see other people's successes. Not that I wasn't happy for them, but because it was making me feel bad for not being where I felt that I should be at a certain point in my life. So yes, social media can definitely impact you, but to add to that, I definitely want to say that it is about the crowd that you follow on social media as well. So I have like different pages. So I have like my professional page and like my personal page. When I go on my professional page, it's more of, you know, motivational speakers and business owners, people that are a certain role. So their conversations, what they're talking about, how they're speaking, how they're going about things is much different than my personal page where I go and all I see are just awesome pictures and, you know, people talking about their accomplishments, which, by the way, I do want to add that that's not always the case. Like, I personally know Instagram famous individuals like in real life that what they are showing is definitely not what it looks like. So just as a reminder, guys, it's not all it summed up to be, you know? Do what you need to do, take your space, you know, go ask questions, and definitely don't, that's something I learned, don't even let that bother you. I know it's easier said than done, but that's definitely an advice I can give right now.
Yeah, especially because we're on the phones all the time. So like in between Zoom classes, you're swiping through like Insta and Snapchat, and then in between another Zoom class or as you're on a Zoom class,
Right.
and it's like you're surrounded by it. And it's to a point where like, okay, maybe I should follow these advocacy accounts and these, you know, environmental, you know, positive accounts instead of following like all these accounts that kind of make me want to like tear myself down. I'm like, okay, maybe I should follow like those, you know, accounts that kind of push me to want to be better. But I agree with y'all, and I think social media. But what do you guys think is like the positive, though? I feel like maybe
about to say that.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like social media, it also has its positive sides because, you know, knowing that a lot of us feel the same way, it opens the platform and speaking about how we feel and how social media and their negatives, you know, and just overall just having that platform we could speak and, you know, just speak about how we feel and, you know, solve the problems of the issues that's going on in the world as well.
Absolutely.
As an artist,
Right, like
it's a really easy way to just like show people what you can create and what like your ideas and things like that, and to get connections with other people who have similar interests and like just people who, you know, who are cool, I guess. So that's, and it makes a lot, you can make a lot of money off of it, and that's a really, really good thing about it.
right, towards musicians, it's definitely something that's great. So it's a way you network, and it's also if you're a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker, so like posting my trailer and posting like upcoming events and things, that's also a really good way to get out there. So I definitely agree with like the networking and escaping through social media, but I guess to an extent. So we are going to open up some of the questions that if any of the audience wants to ask, drop it in the chat and these experts will answer.
I believe some of them, they've actually dropped quite a few. If you like click on over right next to private chat and comments, you should see them.
Right.
I think got some great questions.
I'm not sure how to swipe up.
For you?
Okay, so we have a question. Do you all feel health and nutrition can impact mental health spiritually?
Yes, I believe if you like are just eating junk food and things like that, even after you eat it, you don't feel good. Like you just want to sit down and do nothing for the rest of the day. So I feel like if you food definitely is like one of the first parts of like feeling good.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Since quarantine began, I started like, eating more healthy and, just overall improving myself, drinking smoothies, picking choices, eating more greens and stuff like that. And I also figured out that meditation
Mm.
definitely helps so much, especially regarding the social media topic. When you see a lot of people's successes and you start to tear yourself down, but overall just meditating even for a few minutes, like, or stretching, either one, it just helps you
Mhm.
relieve and calm yourself down, and I just feel overall better after I do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I am plant-based, have been for like 2 years now. So no cheese, milk, fish, meat, none of
Good
that.
for you.
I know, right? I know it's not easy at all, but I definitely felt a huge difference between how I used to eat before and how I eat now. Like the one easy one go-to is that you just feel so light. You don't feel weighed down all the time. And like Adam said, you feel energetic. You don't feel the need to just like sit down and not do anything all day.
Yeah.
So that was great. The mental healthness, because what a lot of us don't realize or understand, a lot of us don't because it's not promoted, is that the enzymes in our foods, like foods have, I don't want to say spirit, but yeah, like what you put into your body affects you spiritually as well. Like, for example, if an animal was killed and it was really sad when it happened, or it was just a stage of fear, you're kind of like ingesting those traumas that they face. Now, with fruits that we eat, they're technically like still alive as well, and they are of the earth, and you just feel a burst of refreshness and a mental light when you eat more plants and incorporate more plants and vegetables into your life daily, and even as simple as just drinking more water than average. Some of us probably, I know I definitely used to drink like more soda than I drank water, but I don't now, and something as simple as that just makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. So please, you don't have to go full plant-based or vegan. Just start drinking more water than you typically do. If you drink one, go for three, and then like work your way. And most importantly, doing the research on the effects of the foods that we ingest in our bodies.
I felt that 100%. And I wish that I wasn't like that person that drinks soda all the time and like orders Domino's every 2 seconds. But it's like, it's true. Like school happens and then we're stressed out because either like our schedules are changing. Like if you're in high school and your schedule keeps changing, I got you on that because my schedule keeps changing and like it makes me like anxious. And then, there's class assignments due, and then there's like college, anything involving college is always stressful. Mm-hmm. So there's always that going on. And then you're like, should I just sit and watch Friends while eating like pizza, or should I, be motivated? And it's always so hard to choose to be motivated and to like push through, that kind of feeling. But I'm usually just like sitting at home watching TV. Not even gonna lie.
You're aware, and that's all that matters. That changes the next.
We have a question. As a representative from a nonprofit organization, how can we create better access to mental health resources?
I used to work at a non-for-profit before, pre-corona. So I realized that the funding is like, I know it's big business and things like that, but the funding seems to not go to outreach as much to the youth, and it seems to be more in the for the people who are already there. So it's really hard to get more people if you can't convey your message to the people. And I think that companies don't use social media correctly. They don't they don't know the youth at all, and they won't hire youth they'll only hire older people who don't really understand us as a demographic.
Wow, Adam. I don't know if you noticed, but essentially you're basically suggesting that companies should hire younger people that the youth can actually relate to more. Yeah. And
it's correct.
That's such a great idea. It even sounds mind blowing to me, even though that's pretty obvious. But yeah, because they won't hire young people because we don't have the experience. But experience is not necessarily only on the job. Us our daily lives are an experience. So the staff should be able to be relatable. You know, they should be relatable to people that they're coaching, you know, and looking after.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. That was great. I think when they do, like, especially when you're in nonprofits and you're in like these youth-led orgs, you see like youth are in power. But then when you talk to other organizations and it's kind of like adults speaking for the youth, and I'm like, oh, okay. So when is the youth coming in, and like,
Right.
are you gonna get you're gonna give me a script because you don't even want to talk, you don't even want to like know anything about me. Okay, cool.
Right.
And that's definitely something that you see. And like the second you said it, I was like, I can't believe I didn't even touch on that yet, because that's so big. And being an NYC, and everyone's like, oh, we should be there for NYC students, but then they're not there for NYC students, and they don't want to hear from NYC students.
No.
So, wow. Yeah. So Staten Island Urban Center commented and asked, what can we as educators and youth advocates do for youth who are withdrawn, especially since the pandemic? And the second part of the question is, what do you believe are the best ways to engage youth within the virtual world? Oh, please let me know this, because Zoom Academy is not engaging whatsoever.
Not. Definitely just talking to us, checking up on us, making sure we're good. Just overall having that support and knowing that we can lean on you guys whenever we're going through something is definitely a big part of it. And honestly, it's what we need right now, especially since we can't see our friends as often as we want to anymore. Just overall, just checking up on us, making sure we're good. Even a little text, like, I hope your day is gonna be good today. It's you know, it's a bare minimum, but it helps a lot.
It really does.
Carleni, I'm about to text you every single day now. Every single day. Yeah, it's crazy because we're completely remote, or we're blended a little. But when we're at school, I remember I texted my friend. I was like, "Hey, so do you have like anything for like AP Psych?" And she was like, "I'm not even paying attention at this point." And it's like showing that we're losing our interest because it's not engaging, and we're all feeling so like drained from this classwork, and it feels like a game sometimes. Like I'm like, okay, let me just finish this so like I can complete it, and then you're not learning, and you're not like getting to know yourself, and you're not, you know, and it's really hard, especially virtual. So thank y'all for that input.
Can I just add on?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So the question, if I can remember it, essentially getting to the source as to why these youth are, you know, stepping away, especially since the pandemic. But even before that, you know, actually analyzing and pretty much finding out why youth are going away further from what we want them to, because that's the main importance there. Once we can figure out why said things are happening, you guys would be able to properly, you know, guide the youth, because they essentially will give you the answer. It's just that simple.
You guys are great.
Thank you.
Hearing from everyone makes me so happy to know that like it's active. But I also actually do want to know, they commented this as well. Do you have any more self-care tips that you can share? That is great. I love self-care. Carleni's already excited. Go for it.
So since quarantine began, I've been taking, you know, self-care Sundays. So that involves, you know, a little hot, nice bath with like a candle lit with my speaker, listening to calming music, and also just overall just making that day, especially that Sunday, about me and me only. Not worrying about my schoolwork, not worrying about what's coming up next, not worrying about what's for the next week, you know? Just overall, just be grounded, focus on yourself for that day, and you'll be fine. I feel like that's the number one self-care tip I could give you guys.
Yeah, soothing music is always a vibe. You can definitely not go wrong, because music plays a lot with our psyche as well. My advice would be taking walks closer to trees than buildings and everything else. But if you can take walks closer to nature, probably just watching the water flow, like anywhere you live, that we can easily find, you know, where there's more trees than buildings. I recommend that because nature is very, very healing to us. So take walks.
Yep, definitely.
I am a big advocate of creative expressions and like painting, Poetry, like whatever, poetry, writing, rapping, making beats, anything that you do. As you can see in my room, I have a lot of random things drawn on stuff, but that's what I do to help myself throughout the weeks, months, days.
Yeah, especially. Oh, go for it.
No, I actually wanted to compliment Adam for that. He brings up a great point because at first glance at his background, people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's cute."
Yeah.
For myself, I certainly did judge, but knowing that that is your form of expression and that is how you deal with things and that is how you heal is very, very beautiful. And it actually just taught me a lesson about not judging, from first glance.
It's no problem. I think it's a little crazy looking too.
I love it though. Now that I know more of the reason, it's like I appreciate it that much better.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's cool to know how people express themselves, especially for like self-care. Like I'm totally different. I'm like, I want to watch TV. I'm a TV head, so I always want to watch TV or just like throw on like Seinfeld or Friends or something like that, and just sit there and just like stare at the TV. My friend is different. She wants to like write songs or like just be active. And then one of my friends just wants to like dance around. And it's really cool that we could all just sit there and like self-care with each other, and have that respect for each other while not judging as well. But I love any type of form of expression with like creativeness. And I think that's so dope. I love that. One question that I had, that we all had, have any of you engaged in any behavior that was physically detrimental to your health, and how did you break through?
One more time.
Okay, I'm gonna read it again. This is kind of like when the teacher asks you what part you want to read and you're like, none, and then they give you the whole book. That's that part. I'm reading the whole book, guys. Give me a break. Okay, have any of you engaged in any behavior that was physically detrimental to your health, and how did you break through?
Behavior that was physically detrimental to our health.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean, like, because, I suppose the only. Okay, I see what the question is.
Yeah.
Well, I personally have not, but I do know a few people who have, and for them, it was actually seeking therapy. But their therapy was more of like nature therapy that I mentioned. So, and also detrimental. Yeah, so it was seeking therapy and actually talking about what her problems were and why she was causing harm to herself.
Yeah. Sorry, it's hard to speak about it. Me myself, like I struggle with depression. So just one day I thought, harming myself would be the best way to distract myself from what's going on mentally, and that was definitely the biggest mistake that I've ever made. But it caused me to seek help, and now I have the help that I need, and I'm feeling way better than ever before.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing
Beautiful.
that.
No problem.
Yeah, I've engaged in a lot of detrimental behavior in my upbringing as a youth, but it's just I just kind of have to get through it. I don't really have any good advice, but for me, it was just knowing that I have people that care about me and want me here on earth and want to see me tomorrow helps me get through the days a lot.
That hit me. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
That's really what Carlini. That's really what it is, though, because sometimes it's like we don't have the answers. Like we don't have the answers. Like we could say things, but we're still not gonna do it. Like we could be talking about this right now and say we should all be going out to nature and we shouldn't be binging and we shouldn't be harming, and then we go back home and that one thing hits us and we just go back into that like slump.
Hermit.
Damn. Mm-hmm. Right. And you're like covered. And, I dealt with PTSD and I dealt with, depression, being in like the foster care system. And like, it was so much. And then I think like the one thing that pulled me through was my advocacy work, because I could push for better mental health for myself and for the people around me. But a lot of people, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to kind of get out of that shell, and it's hard to like, not be, there's a little chat that said, I'm sending a virtual hug to all of you. I just wanted to shout that out because
thank you.
Positive vibes. It really is. You know, I was so afraid of having conversations like this because I'm like I'm talking about it sometimes is so hard because you're like, oh, like I feel this way. Is anyone else going to understand me? And then what if they don't understand me? What if they don't see the way that I express myself? What if they don't like my art? What if they don't like, you know, what I have to say? Then what?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that coming here and talking together is good vibes in this room.
Right.
It's some good vibes.
I also want to say, just talking about it, it makes me emotional because it's like at one point in my life, just a few months ago, I was like in the worst part of my life, and just knowing that I've overcame that and knowing that I can help other youth overcome the same thing that I went through, it just makes me emotional because it's like, wow, I'm pushing for change. And
right.
Yes. Oh, and guys, I don't know if you know, but Carleni does a lot of good work, guys. Like, I'm gonna just put her on the spotlight. You know, Teens Take Charge advocate over here.
I love this, and I'm excited and eager to learn after this. So thank you for that shout out of her.
Has to be a group chat or something. A question: do drugs and alcohol figure into this discussion? We read that adult use is way up in the time of pandemic.
Mm.
So unfortunately so is youth use as well, because a lot of youth, they resort to like weed because it's not really, I guess you can say it's not really addictive, but to me it is, because it's like if you can't go a day without smoking, then I feel like that's addictive. But also maybe drinking as well, I'm not sure, but I know a lot of youth, they smoke weed and stuff like that, and it just plays a role in your mental health.
Yes, I definitely do think that drugs and alcohol figure into this discussion. Everything that we do, really, is into mental health. Everything that we eat, drink, it does. So kind of just being aware of, again, what we're ingesting. And it's understandable why people would resolve to these things as a form of escape, especially during this pandemic and during the COVID, because they can't see their friends as much. They're probably in over their heads like, okay, if I see so and so, am I allowed to hug her? Can I still give her a kiss on the cheek? You know, shake her hand? Just the thoughts in our heads alone can push anyone to finding these forms of escape. But just being aware, you know, is the most important, and understanding why we're doing this.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that result in like, you know, taking those steps and pushing towards drugs to bring them, you know, that kind of empty feeling that they have away. And I think like there are those moments, especially as youth, when you're like, oh, nobody's here for me. I feel broken. I feel numb. What can I do? I'm telling you, Seinfeld is a really funny show. Y'all should be watching Seinfeld. I don't know. You know, find that thing, you know, do like write a poem. I'm a poet too. Write a poem, write that script, write that book that I know you guys been wanting to write. I know all of you, everyone that's watching this wanted to write a book at one point. Write that book. Like come on, you know? But there's always ways, like reach out to your friend. I always reach out to my friend. I cut my hair impulsively. And I was like, I called her. I was like, should I cut it? And she never answered. The next day I cut it. And she was like, damn, you should have called me. It's like, hey, well, I called you and you didn't answer. So what do you do when that person doesn't answer? You rely on yourself. I ended up cutting my hair, so I don't know where that went. We got a question that said, what advice do you have for parents of teens? How can we support our kids to balance structured downtime?
Please, I have to answer. Just be there for your child. Just because they're not working, just because they're just going to school, doesn't mean that their feelings are not invalidated. Like, their feelings matter too. Just because you guys work 9 to 5 and stuff like that, we're just home, doesn't mean that we're not going through stuff mentally and physically and emotionally and everything. And just being there for your child and not invalidating their feelings or anything. Because I know a lot of the times, you know, parents invalidate how we feel. And that's why we have so much mental problem. And that's why we go through depression, because we have nobody to talk to, you know? So just being there overall. Being there. Be there for your child.
Yeah, absolutely, Carleni. And I want to say, Amy, first of all, the fact that you care enough to even pose this question to you. It's such a big deal. So thank you for that. And as to add on to what Carleni said, you know, we understand that maybe the youths in the home may not be working, but they also have their own issues, you know, from they're having to deal with peer pressure outside, you know, not knowing how to cope with that. And then come home, they can't even ask you that question because you're probably going to yell at them or even worse, beat them, you know, well, maybe that's not worse, but because mental is stronger. But yeah, so beat them, you know, just second guessing them. If children are not comfortable to even ask you a question, to talk about sex, to talk about the dude that approached her or the girl that, you know, did what with and what, then that's the problem. That's simply the beginning of our mental issues, because we don't feel safe at home. We don't feel comfortable at home. We cannot be vulnerable at home. That was definitely my reason for moving out so early on and even ending up homeless twice. But I still chose being homeless and going back to that space. So absolutely just listening and just being there and being someone that they can trust and actually ask questions to.
Make sure that your home is a non-judgmental zone and make sure it's a safe space, because literally the reason why so much youth go through depression and anxiety is because they can't talk to their main parents, and because their parents judge them when they bring up sensitive topics like such.
And to know that your child is their own person. Like they're not you, they're not a clone. Like they're just another person growing up.
Yes, you're so right, because oftentimes parents tend to try to live through their child, through their children, and forgetting that they are individuals. So you are so right. That's a big one too.
Yeah, that I couldn't even escape that. That was like, I think there was like a moment where I was like, you know, when you said, you know, living anywhere but your house was the way. That was like, when you said that, I was like, damn, I didn't know anyone else went through that. Living anywhere, I was like, okay, I have to run away. I was like, I can't do this anymore because like my parents aren't listening to me. I feel belittled. I feel like every time I'm like, oh, I want to talk to a therapist, my mom's like, why? Are you crazy? Or why? Because I'm yelling at you too much. Why? Because, you know, and then they start questioning you, and then you don't want to eat, or you eat too much, and then you don't know what to do, but you can't talk to your parents. And then now I can't imagine like being in a pandemic and you're in that house and you're like, what do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Reach out to anybody you know. And if that one teacher kind of gave you a little, you know, advice like a week before, go to them. Tell them, hey, man, like, what should I do? Or if somebody said something that was really inspirational, be friends with them, talk to them, have that thing. That's kind of what I do. But
that's really great advice too.
Yeah, right. It's sometimes if you can't guide yourself, there's other people that can slowly take you places. And like, they don't have to be there for the, like, I'm pretty sure y'all probably had this where that like one person helped you one time way long ago and you remember it. They probably remember you, but that help pushed you a lot. You know what I'm saying? So like, I remember one time somebody gave me a ride to my old foster home that was like in Brownsville. And I didn't want to take the train by myself that time. And like that ride meant so much to me. So there's always like those little things. We're almost up to our youth agenda, but we have a question that says, sorry if y'all hear something. That's my friend in the background who doesn't know how to stop. That was a joke. I'm so sorry. What advice you give to students? Oh, okay, so I guess it's like, what advice do you have to give to students? Go for it.
I'm not in school right now, but I just know that a lot of students are thinking that because it's online, it's optional. It's not optional. Like, it's still school, so you still have to like go every day and think like, just because you're at home doesn't mean you can't, like, it's an option to go to class.
It really feels like an option. Thank you for touching on that.
You know, unfortunately, it does.
It's like, should I go? Like, it's 8 o'clock. Should I sleep? Oh man, I felt that.
But wait, sorry. So the advice was that I kind of missed it a little bit. what's the advice to the student? That it is an option or it's not?
That it's not an option. Like
It's
you
not.
have to go to go to school.
All right, cool. Just because you're at home, don't mean
Yeah.
that. I agree.
Yes, go to classes, guys. Get that degree. Yeah, okay. So this is going to be our last question before our youth agenda question. Many young people are suffering in silence at home, dealing with various forms of abuse, part of the LGBTQ plus community, etc., and can't be themselves. Any resources and advice for these young people?
311. I used to work at a non-for-profit called Safe Horizon that has a outreach hotline for LGBTQ plus folks specifically, where they can set you up with just information, what you need to, like, whatever's safety planning for you in the next couple days, months, and things like that.
Yeah, 311 is definitely like an easy go-to because when you dial it, they can revert you to anywhere and everywhere. I'm only saying that because I only found this out like 5 years ago. I didn't know what 311 was until I called and I realized that they can direct you to any and everywhere that you need to be. So yes, I agree with that. And okay, I'll have to get back to you guys on that. But there's a NYC community or youth website, government website that I came across that always provides information. You guys can Google it. I'm sorry that I'm not very detailed right now, but yeah, there's usually certain spaces that the government spaces that is provided for them. I was on a tangent. I'm gonna be quiet now.
Never be quiet.
Fine.
What the? Continue speaking. Your wisdom is cherished here.
The exact words I was looking for to come, but it just never came, and I kept going. So
it's okay. I do know of a place called, I don't know how to pronounce it, Kayleen Lord or something. But I'm gonna show you because this is my phone. So I know that this is a good health center. You can also get resources there, therapy. If you guys like need anything, they could probably help you out over there. I went there because I didn't have my insurance, and they also help people that don't even have insurance sometimes. So check that place out, or you could contact youth. Oh wait, yeah, contact youth. There it is. So we are going to push forward to our youth agenda, which is a question of what would you want our next mayor or elected officials to prioritize when thinking about supports needed for mental health? For example, building awareness, school counselors.
Please provide more school counselors, providing more psychologists in schools, because that's what youth need. This is why we're having the conversation, so we can have more school counselors in the schools, make sure our youth is speaking up how they feel, because like we stated before, sometimes the home is not a safe space for us. So who do we go to? And where youth is mostly at school, so we have to go to school counselors. So hopefully they can fund us to provide us more school counselors and psychologists and all of that, so our youth can improve our mental health as well.
I think that they should implement classes where, like, mandatory classes where kids can learn, like, just expression, how to express themselves, how to speak, like,
Yep.
convey their emotions properly without doing anything negative for themselves or others. How, like, just resources. There should be a class or like a book that everyone gets first day of school with the resources, with everything they need. Just make it more in your face, because I feel like you have to ask to get any type of help at school instead of it just being like thrown at you.
You are so right, Adam. I feel because the fact that this topic is has been manifesting, I would say for me personally, I've been hearing a lot more only within the recent 2 years. Like, these are definitely things I should have been aware of or thinking about when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, where I actually really needed help navigating through certain thoughts that were going through my head or certain experiences. So putting it like in our faces, having a book that you know where to go without having to like think of who to go to or where to go to, already be provided. You're so right.
Yeah, we need more trusted officials at school too, because I went to a guidance counselor at one point and she just straight up told my dad things that she shouldn't have said. Yeah, I wrote this letter and it was talking about the abuse at home, and she ended up calling my dad and reading her that letter. It's something that like really ruined me, because like that next week was horrible for me, and that's probably why I ran away. I'm good now. We all good here. But yeah, I think we have counselors, but are they good counselors? And are they trained enough to help us? But I definitely think that that's what the mayor should also think about. What's going on inside our schools, because that's what is affecting us. Yeah, so I'm not from NYC, but I like to keep and help out when I can. Is there anything we can do, like donate? Can you please post it? I think I'm like, can we donate?
Great question, and we will get back to you.
Like it says Youth Connect. I don't know, maybe you want to donate to that number down there. I mean, there's a lot of organizations that you could donate to. There's a lot of small GoFundMe's going out to youth that need places to stay and things like that too. There's a lot of that going on.
And I just like to add, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
Okay, that as far as donating, it's such a big thing now, but I feel that we should definitely know exactly what is going to be done with the funds that we're donating, because I feel like these days we just donate and we don't know what's happening with this money.
Right.
We see that it's being promoted and we assume, hey, this is a comfortable space to do it, but make sure that you know exactly where you're donating to and where the funds are going to be going, and that it is going to be used for the reason why you donated it.
Thank you guys so much. I like that whole conversation really just like, I was like, damn, school got me drained, but right now I want to like run up or something. I'm going to jog or something. It's making me like go see nature. Thank you guys.
No problem.
I don't even know how to end this. I feel like we need a hug. Like, can we just,
Virtual hug.
Virtual hug. Thank you guys for being so open and sharing your experience and knowledge with us. Yes. So, all right. Thank y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
Wonderful having this conversation with you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
You guys were great. Oh, such a good group. Okay, time for a message from our partners. Guys, that was a really good call. This is getting me really excited. So time for a message from our partners. The Burrow Fellows Program. Yeah, time for our message from our partners. Next slide. Yes, so so we have a message from our partner, the Burrow Fellows Program, and I would like to introduce Rachel and Serena to share an opportunity with you.
Thanks, Sue.
Hey,
Hi everybody, my name's Serena. Oh, let me know when it's fine to start. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Hi everybody, my name's Serena. I'm from the Bronx and my pronouns are she, hers.
And I'm Rachel. I live on the Upper East Side and my pronouns are also she, her. We're here to tell you about It's Our Money.
So It's Our Money is a chance for us New York City youth to tell the government how to help us during these unprecedented times. The Civic Engagement Commission is putting up $100,000 and we the youth get to decide how it's going to be spent. This is how it works.
First, we need to figure out what's most important. So we need you to add your input and see what other youth are saying about our biggest issues right now. You can do this by texting POWER to 315-277-6937.
Once that happens, nonprofits across the city will submit proposals on how they would use $20,000 to address the problems raised in the first step. And don't worry, you'll be able to see all the proposals and be able to comment on them too using our website.
Lastly, to make the final decision on who gets the money, youth in New York City will be able to vote directly for the projects and programs that they feel best support them.
We created this process to give youth a voice and show them that they're not alone, that we are not alone, and our feelings and thoughts are valid.
And because we value your participation, we're giving out thousands of dollars in prizes now through the end of the vote. So again, text us the word POWER to 315-277-6937 to get started. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel and Serena. That, I know it's like difficult to come up here and like speak about that. I appreciate that. I hope some of you are able to participate in what was shared with us. So this is the info. If y'all just want to screenshot it, take a picture of it, make sure you have it. Here's your time to do so. All right. So yeah, help me welcome Siani Irby. I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong. A powerful vocalist. Show her some love and drop some applause or praise in the comments. I actually peeped her Instagram yesterday. You got some amazing stuff over there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can start now.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Hi, my name is Siani Irby. I go to LaGuardia High School. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. 1 second. I'm so sorry. 1 second.
It's okay. No worries. Take your time.
I go to LaGuardia High School. I performed at the Apollo 3 times, and I'm very excited to be performing here today for this really good cause. So thank you for having me. Okay, I'm starting. I've been on the low, I've been taking my time. I feel like I'm out of my mind. It feels like my life ain't mine. I've been on the low, I've been taking my time. I feel like I'm out of my mind. It feels like my life ain't mine. I just wanna be alive. I just wanna be alive.
You okay, Big Sis? I just want you to be happy.
Can I love somebody else if I can't love myself enough to know when it's time to let go? Saying all I really want is to be happy and to find a love that's mine. It would be so sweet. All I really want is to be happy and to find a love that's mine. It would be so sweet. I ask for a sign from the sweet Lord above. I know the answer is in front of me, but when you think you're in love, you only see what you wanna see. And all I see is you for me and me for you. Oh, I cannot hide the way I feel inside. I don't know why, but every day I wanna cry. If I give me one more chance to these rules, I will abide. 'Cause I mean everything to me, and I know it will be alright. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much for letting me perform.
Oh, that was like my friend is over here, and I was like, "Girl, this girl's singing right now so well." Yeah, I don't know about you, but she just gave me chills.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siani. Do you have like an Instagram people could follow you at?
Yeah,
want to shout yourself out?
Is at CC I'm the Truth. Just no. Okay, CECEIMTHE Truth. No spaces, no nothing.
I got it. We could drop it in the link to. Drop it in the comments too. Oh, there it is. Ooh.
No A though, but yeah.
Oh,
okay.
No A.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. There it is, guys. If y'all want to follow her, check her out. This is great. Yeah, so how are we doing so far, y'all? Drop a thumbs up, fire, happy face, confused face. How y'all feeling? Let me know. If we need a little mental health break, you know, a little some, if y'all want to grab something to eat, something to drink, or just drop in the chat how y'all are feeling. Do we have anything? We got applause. Ooh, they really like you. This is great. Got for me, nice job. Yeah, so is everyone feeling good? Is everyone feeling stable to go for the next? Oh, it's the voice for me, right?
Thank you.
It's the supportive family for me. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're here.
Oh, thank you, Carletti. Not gonna lie, y'all. This is pretty nerve-wracking getting up here. You are all doing great. Thank you, guys. This is great. Yeah, so if everyone is feeling good and everyone is feeling like, you know, we're set to move, we're gonna be going towards our dropping gem segment. Yeah, which is an intergenerational exchange between our youth experts, Basino, I keep saying it, and who will be joined by a Bube and a few seasoned experts. This is the best part, guys. The dropping gem section is chef's kiss with like the sprinkle.
You are far too kind.
I love that it's full. I love seeing a line full of people. This is so good. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, hey, so
Many blessings, many blessings.
Hey.
Hi, hello. I have the honor of introducing our esteemed experts. Welcome, Coach D. Williams from Get It Fly Right, Joshua Ware, Dr. Ortega Williams, and Dr. Michael Sinclair. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Yes, our pleasure. Word.
Awesome. So I am just going to get right into it. The first question, pardon me, give me a second. Okay, so this question is going to be for Coach D. Williams from Get It Fly Right. Youth organizers' strategies to manage emotions. So how can youth organizers best manage their emotions in the current climate and circumstances? I feel like I asked you that because I'm a basketball player as well. So I was like,
oh, okay, cool. So I'm going to say many blessings. I just want to say many blessings to everyone here today. I feel really honored and humbled to be here. Get fit, fly right. I know it's a tongue twister.
Get fit, fly.
Yeah, and Coach D as in Dominique. But you only call me Dominique if you hang out with me on Fridays.
All right.
But until then, the best thing that I believe in is just breathe. Really having the capacity to take a moment and get present. I was on a call with a good friend, and he had once said to me, you know, it's important to keep your mind where your feet are. And so I believe for everyone, not just athletes or coaches or teachers, but everyone, every human body that breathes, that one very simple strategy is taking the time to just breathe, and really getting present with what's happening, really accepting and acknowledging it, and then also identifying what your needs are in the moment. I think a lot of people operate in what I call FBS, which is fear-based strategies. A lot of what they're thinking to do is based in a fear. And so then their strategy is now enacting and further exacerbating that fear. And so if we can all just take a moment to just breathe. Shout out to my mama. She used to say that to me. That we have that opportunity to get present.
Wow, Coach D, that is so beautiful. And happy. We were actually just speaking about, you know, a safe home and comfortable home. So it's so beautiful to hear that you had someone like that, a parent or guardian that you were able to be comfortable with, and she would give you such advice. Or not, but she gave you great advice. She's like,
no, it's a journey and a process. It's a journey. You know, mental health, I will say this, mental wellness is self-awareness, and it's a process and a journey that is always ongoing. And it's not something that someone gives you, it's something you give yourself. And so when we talk mental hygiene, you know, when I was little, I thought my mother was just shutting me up. It wasn't until after I was 30 that I understood what she was actually saying to me. And it wasn't until after 30 something that I figured out a way to make this a system, which is known as 533 breath meditation. That's the meditation I do with my athletes. It's a journey, baby. It's always a journey.
You said mental health hygiene?
Mental hygiene, yes. So mental wellness and mental hygiene, right? I believe that hygiene, right, as we know it, is a system. So we all get up and brush our teeth. That's a hygiene system. It's called dental hygiene. We don't eat and just wish that our breath won't stink. There's measures that we take. And so we often confuse self-care and mental wellness with actual mental hygiene.
Wow. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for expanding on that. I feel so educated already.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Ibube. I just joined the call right now, but I know we've been doing great already. I would like our audience and our viewers to know that these are experts with us right now, and they all have a form of experience in the topic of mental health. We all know how important it is in our current society, and people need to pay more attention to mental health and to take it more seriously. But yeah, I'm excited and I'm happy to have you inform us and also drop a lot of knowledge on young people that are listening and that are also viewing. I have a question for Joshua Ware. I would like to ask, what do you think government agencies and healthcare providers do better? What do you think they could do better? Government agencies and healthcare providers to address the mental health needs among young people.
I mean, I think the first step is, not to even be cheesy. I think the first step is caring, right? Like having that empathy towards people who may not look like you or may not come from the same experience or background as you. Something that I've noticed is that specifically in the healthcare profession, it can be a detachment from seeing the patients as human, right? And so when there is not like an actual, realization or actualization that there's a human who is connected to family members and friends and that they have a purpose, a lot of their mental health concerns is brushed under the rug. It becomes what is more measurable. And a lot of times mental health, no matter how many screenings you put on it, whether it's a PHQ-9, a GAD-7, or even a MDQ, whatever acronym you want to put on it, a lot of it comes down to something that's unmeasurable. Like Coach D said, is a system, right? And these systems aren't measurable. Like it's how this person is perceiving their mental health journey. And, a lot of times it's left out of the conversation in a lot of government agencies and also in a lot of like medical spaces. But at the same time, to get into like systems, or like if this country has never never humanized people who look like us or sound like us or come from where we come from, then it's hard to expect them to humanize us now, right? And these systems are all product of a one core system in this country. So, a lot of times the journey is just about kind of in a position of like usually social workers in that space is to bring a humanizing culture into the space. It's difficult, but I think that's the first step when it comes to seeing people in the community as worth having mental health services.
I just want to say thank you very much. You spoke deeply and you gave us some great points. And it is a system. Coach D has spoken about it, and now Joshua has spoken. Like it is a system, and for government to help, they need to care. For them to help young people, for them to be able to know how it affects us, know where we, how it touches us, or how we feel about it, they need to care about what we actually go through. They need to care and they need to pay attention. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is for Dr. Anna Ortega. Is that fine with you? How would you like to be referred to?
Oh,
Anna Ortega Williams or Anna Ortega?
Anna Ortega Williams. Thank you.
Okay, my apologies. Anna Ortega Williams. Can you please provide us with some mental health resources? I know we, the youth, were previously speaking on it, but to be honest, we couldn't fully get out the resources as we intended to. So can you please provide us with some resources?
Yes. Well, what I want to say, I just want to tag on to what was last said about how could government officials and how could service providers overall, even the ones that I'm about to mention, how can they support young people and mental health and mental hygiene? And I think it's also having young people at the table to help shape the policies that are governing the implementation of those services. Young people, just listening to you all, you have so many of the solutions. You know what's happening in your body, in your mind, in your home, and in your community. And so having a place at the table to help shape that is mental health and well-being as well, having young people's voices at the table being heard. So I just wanted to put that on the table. But I think that there are many programs in New York City. So one, I would just say, look around your local neighborhood. The Red Hook Initiative is a place where I worked, and they offer programs where young people were peer counselors and training each other in how to respond. The Department of Health and Mental Hygiene offered the mental health first aid training so that everyone can get trained in basic mental health first aid so that people can be able to respond to one's own needs as well as peers and neighbors. And then I will also say New York City Well is a wonderful resource. I have used it. I have referred others to use it, and it's free. And so you can text that resource. You can also use the phone. I would say other youth-based programs like The Door are really powerful, where young people can become members. And that, I think, a really important part of mental health and well-being is that it's not isolated from every other part of your life. If you don't have housing, if you don't have shelter, you don't have mental health and well-being. So I think programs that provide holistic support and give young people a place to pursue their creativity and joy also supports mental health and well-being. So I will again look at your own network and how you're training yourselves, and then also connecting to community-based programs where you are.
That is so wonderful. That was a lot of very helpful information and resources. I wrote my own notes as well, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ortega Williams, for sharing that with us. Once again, I'll tell our young people that there's a lot of information and knowledge, and there's a lot of stuff that you're gonna learn from this, and you're going to take away. So thank you all for sharing that. I have a question for Dr. Sinclair. I would like to ask you, how are ways to destigmatize the stereotypes around mental health?
Destigmatizing the stereotypes around mental health. Okay, that takes on several different platforms, and I'll just share with you my experience. First of all, there are quite a few people out there that have been diagnosed with a mental illness that are what I'm saying, quote unquote, coming out of the closet, letting people know that you're not dying or you're not sick with a mental illness, you're living with it. And there are people that we have in our own families that have mental illness. So the more people, particularly celebrities and people that are in the media, that come out and say, listen, I'm struggling with depression, or I'm struggling with anti-anxiety or antisocial disorder. The more people that come out and say that, the more people can normalize having a mental illness and really see it as a part of, it shouldn't be more stigmatized as if someone has the flu or a cold. People have these illnesses that are episodes in their life. Second of all, I think that we should make it more accessible for people, particularly young people in urban communities, to access proper health care, proper mental health care. The more access it becomes available, I think the more people could see that it's not something that only a few marginalized people experience. You find that in very lucrative communities that they check in with their therapists almost on a regular basis. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to Pilates, and I'm going to see my therapist, as if it's the normal way of living. It's not stigmatized like, oh, I can't share this with anybody. Now, in the Black community, particularly people of color, we have always been somewhat hesitant to really share our dirty laundry. As a community, we tend to close up and say, listen, if there's something that's happening inside our family, I don't know if it's just my family, but I remember growing up in Brooklyn where people were like, don't share your dirty laundry. Don't tell people what's going on. And I think that we need to move beyond that because we have some resources, not only within our family, but within our community. It would be surprising to say that when you have somebody who's suffering from anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder, and you actually have that conversation, you find that in churches, in the synagogues, in mosques, you'll find so many people say, you know what? I've been having these issues and I didn't know what it was. They didn't have the words or the vocabulary to really discuss what they were feeling. It's called alexithymia. That's a large word that you don't have to remember. But people tend to have these feelings and not know that these feelings, the constellation of symptoms, really is something that can be addressed with a professional, with a mental health professional. So those are some of the things that I would work on in destigmatizing mental health. There's groups that we know like NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness, that do a really good job of community education around mental illnesses. And another thing that I wanted to say about mental illnesses, despite the local myth, it's not contagious. Very often it's not contagious. So if someone is suffering from it, let me leave you with one last step, particularly in light of what's going on with this pandemic. In conversations that are happening now, we tend to have cordialities that we share with our friends, such as, how are you doing? I think that we need to push the envelope and say, how are you really doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it goes beyond the superficial. Oh yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good. You know, we need to have those conversations. Now, the more that we are social distancing, we need to ask those questions. How are you really doing? Okay, and I'll leave you with that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sinclair, for sharing that with us.
I definitely particularly liked and related to the part that you said, you know, in your home, like you were told to like keep certain things to yourself. Growing up in an African household, I feel like that's a thing, like everywhere and all the time. So even when I hit certain obstacles and I was like doing things, fending for myself, it was uncomfortable to reach out for help or ask people if I could sleep on their couch or something, because I'm not supposed to tell them those things. So I definitely really, really related to that. And it's something that, like you mentioned, should not be a case anymore. So thank you for that. Because I thought it was just an African household or like within first generation Africans or something.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also from an African household like you, Abasiano, but I know that their stigmas go well beyond African households. It goes to Caribbean households. It goes to white neighborhoods, like different people. And why it's called a stigma is because it has been so normalized, and people think it to be normal. And normal, like the stigma, like if a man goes to look for counseling or needs counseling, he sees him as weak. This is a stigma that have been around in the society for a long time. When you talk about a general man, talk less of when you talk about the black man or the black woman, and they have to be the people that always have to be strong and have to carry that load on their back, and they have nobody to talk to in situations like that. So this is stigmas that have been normalized, and talking about this the way we are, we have to make it not normal. We have to turn it around and make it normal to talk to people, and make it normal to seek for help, and make it normal to ask for help. And I feel the best way we are doing that is to have this kind of conversations. When we make these conversations normal, we encourage young people to seek that help and to actually go find that help. So thank you so much for shooting that, Dr.
The last thing is people have to model that too. So if you're going through something and you reach out for help, your friends are going to say, wow, he had the courage to reach out for help. So you have to model that behavior, and you have to say, you know, I'm not all right today. I'm not feeling all right. So I believe it's a lot with modeling too, modeling that behavior.
Oh, that actually just reminded me of what I wanted to add to what you said previously, as far as like, we just say, how are you? How are you doing? And that's it. But sorry. Oh yeah. So we just say, how are you? But we don't really mean it. It reminds me of a time 2 years ago where I was going through a lot, and I reconnected with an old friend. He was like, how are you? And naturally, I'm just like, I'm fine. He's like, no, Abby, how are you? Like, no, for real, how are you? And I just down. I didn't even know that I felt these emotions, or that I was gonna break down like that, but I broke down and I told him everything, and it was just like the most helpful thing that anybody could do for me right there, by not just asking how are you, but truly meaning
how
it.
are you really doing?
Yeah.
Vulnerability is a superpower. And the more we learn how to continue to share our story, continue to be vulnerable, especially for athletes, coaches, leaders, right? This doesn't go just for adults or kids. This goes for everybody. You know, if you're in a house where people are being strong, and you are now being vulnerable and sharing your story, you now give light and license to others to do the same. And so how we normalize is by understanding that our vulnerability is what connects us to who we are and who we get to be.
And our humanity.
I just want
to
say too, I think that social service providers also need to take on an anti-racist stance, because I think that young people, if they understand that they can also bring in their concerns about what they're experiencing in the world, if they're able to bring that into the space, and also if social service providers are also able to reckon with the racist history and classist history of our social services, I think that will also give space for young people to be able to open up and be vulnerable. I think we have to create a space that is culturally responsive, so that young people can also bring in their cultural healing tools. So it's not going to just be based on the theorists that we know. It's not going to just be from Piaget. It's not going to be just from Erickson. It's going to be, what were the traditions where you're from that also help establish wellness and well-being, because that is also a part of mental health and well-being. It's embedded in our cultural context. And also our young people have been protesting. They have been out in the streets demanding justice regarding different incidents that are occurring, racist incidents that are occurring. So that's a part of healing and mental health as well. It's not just what happens beyond closed doors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback on that in terms of the cumulative stress that our young people are experiencing in these very precarious times. You know, what I consider, and I think Dr. Ortega-Williams, what our young people are experiencing is what I consider complex integrated trauma, which is very, very, very different. We're not dealing with one or two variables. We're not dealing with something like we've seen some assault that's happening in our community, or something domestic violence that's happening within our homes. We're talking about a cumulative stress, you know, that really encompasses almost everything that we do. And without that level of safety, whether it's at home, in the community, or at the school, we are actually on perpetual integrated stress, which really will affect not only how we feel, our worldview, and even our vision for the future. It will affect our relationships. It will affect how we get along with other people. It will affect our spirituality and our belief in a higher being. You know, so it really is something that we're not addressing. And if we address it in a very myopic or one-sided way, we miss the whole big picture of what's happening in the community. We have kids as young as third grade, second grade that are talking about George Floyd right now, and they're talking about what they're experiencing in not feeling safe in their own skin. And that's something that we really need to address. Dr. Joy DeGride-Larry talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome. This is generational. We've been dealing with this for years. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. So, I mean, this is something that not only culturally competent social work practitioners and other mental health practitioners, but we need culturally congruent practitioners, ones that could be empathetic and understand our cultural narrative that really encompasses our lives. So it's something that we really need to address in a very serious and comprehensive way.
For sure. Thank you, Dr. Human. Coach,
yeah, I want to offer to youth, and this, I'm just gonna say it. I'm an '80s baby, squad up. You could do this yourself. You know, I'm watching the comments. I'm seeing spirituality and wellness, and so when we talk about culturally competent and culturally synchronistic therapy, we're talking about yoga, we're talking about Reiki, we're talking about breath, we're talking about activity, we're talking about writing, we're talking about journaling, and all of these things you do not have to go out and get. Having a system of wellness starts within you, starts within discipline, starts within consistency, and starts within practice. I'm a firm believer in what you seek is seeking you. And so often the message that I tell my youth, I also tell my 80-year-old clients, which I have some, whatever it is that you need, ask and you shall receive. Be patient, but then also be disciplined and consistent. So if we're talking about anxiety and we're talking about depression, yoga, meditation, getting into the habit of saying, not, oh, woe is me. How can I help me? How can I support me? And I think so often in our culture, we're taught, oh, we're the underdog. In this situation, I don't believe we are. I really, with Get Fit, Fly Right, Survival of the Fittest, we're also thriving in a very fit way. Things like this. This is mental health. This is mental wellness. Continuing to seek things like this, continuing to seek safe spaces where you can share your story. So that way, when you share your story, you're empowering someone else and you're paying it forward. And now you're able to look at that story with purpose. And so the last thing that I'll say when we talk about what systems, what resources, we start with ourselves. And I believe that is one of the surest ways to continue the journey, but then also along the way, get the things that you need.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Coach D. Josh.
Yeah, just to add on, just to really, as a clinician, a lot of times, I understand that, or the way I approach it is really understanding that, like, what's happening in session is like maybe like 5% of what the actual journey is, right? Like in session is just like the practice, right? Like you go to practice, but outside of that, it's like the real life game that you're about to play, right? And a lot of times people walk into therapy, as Coach D, stated, like searching for an answer from someone else without realizing that the answer is within them. Right. And a lot of times, as a clinician, it's about being present as a soundboard, right? And asking those open-ended questions so that person can search deeper within themselves, right? Applying, homework that give them a chance to really evaluate where they stand and how they're speaking to themselves, how they're showing up for themselves, or how they're loving themselves, right? Especially, again, it goes back to systems. If you have to go back into a world that is not loving and is not kind, right? Or is filled with trauma and generational trauma, the best weapon and the best tool is to love yourself. Right? And a lot of times we see strength as like stoic behavior, or strength as anger, or strength as violence, but really the strength comes with being able to build a community, right? Being able to show up for friends and show up for yourself and create that tribe that is filled with love and vulnerability and safety and community and love, right? Like Bell Hooks speaks about, like, healing has to happen in the space of love, and healing cannot happen without community. So community is love. And so it's just about being able to create those spaces and as a clinician, as somebody who, went through, as Dr. I think Dr. Ortega cited, like Piaget and Vygotsky and Bowlby. We learned all these people just for us to, especially as Black clinicians, to drop it off and be like, hey, like, what is James Baldwin talking about? What is Audre Lorde talking about? What are these people who identify and look like me? Like, what are they speaking about? How are they healing? And so, it's just about being able to approach it in a way that empowers people to search within themselves. You're never too young and you're never too old to really dig deep for the answers that you have.
You got to introduce Jerome Shealy and Billingsley and Malefic Asante and Naeem Akbar, Dr. So those are the people that we need to sort of have in our center in terms of Afrocentric approaches.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. We had some great comments from everyone speaking. I think something that we could take away is like self-love is something that is highly important when it comes to this topic of mental health. And also something I think we we should know is like self-love is contagious. Like when you love yourself and like you smile and you always like people always want to be around you. They always draw that energy from you and they be like, oh, I know that person. Like you will have to miss out in a crowd because they always see that way. They have conversations with you. You're just so selfless and you just love yourself and they want that kind of love for themselves. Even if they don't have it, if they see in you, they want to emulate that kind of attitude, that kind of behavior. So I think that's something that we could definitely take away. Thank you for sharing that, Joshua.
Definitely. No problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I just ask one more question to Joshua? It's kind of along the lines of what you already answered. So community organizing can often bring up lots of emotions and even trigger at times. How can youth organizers remain emotionally and psychologically safe in the current climate and circumstances of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important part is knowing that a part of the work is rest, right? Learning how to rest. Like rest is also a part of the work, and so again, like dropping Audrey Lorde, like she's one of my favorite people. She talks about like self-preservation, right? Is you have to. That's an act of self-love. That's also like a radical way to change like the system. That's a way to activate your ability to organize like how you show up for yourself, right? And so rest is a part of it, but also like at the same time asking people who you're organizing with, like how are they actually doing? I think many a times and like when you're in the planning stages of organizing and trying to bring about resources, there's also like this intellectualization of like the process and then that ultimately dehumanizes you, right? So like it's about being able to see each other as humans collecting together in order to change something. It's not just a movement, right? Like Black Lives Matter is not just a movement. It is a collection of people, of spirits, of souls who are coming together, energy that's coming together in order to make a change. And so it's about respecting that space as, okay, this person beside me, I'm here with them, here for them, and we are connected. And being able to create that culture of humanization within.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now it's time to hear from our audience.
Yeah, from the audience. So the audience, I'm pretty sure we have some great questions that they want to ask. So if we have comments from the audience, so at this point, okay, we have one. He says, "Can we create the reading list for the youth?" We have some great names. I don't know all of them, but you have me researching after this call.
Yeah.
Agreed. I would love this list as well.
This is all only for the youth. I think everyone needs that reading list at some point.
That part.
So yeah, that's something that we'll discuss and share at some point. Hopefully. Thank you for that question.
I will go through a few more. Yeah, there are a lot of gems dropped, and people definitely appreciated it. Vulnerability is a superpower. That was amazing. The best weapon is to love yourself. You guys just dropping a whole lot of gems. Do you see any other questions that stand out to you, Bube?
If you go to the private chat, I think there's a question for you to ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now, what do you all feel that should? Sorry. What should the youth consider for the youth agenda? This is good. Getting to hear from you guys about what we need. So what should the youth consider for the youth agenda? Go for it, Joshua.
Yeah.
And it's only because I'm 27 and I'm not too far from, and I'm not too far removed. But I think just reading like just a lot of like different movements. I think one of the most important things is to like be intersectional and not make the same mistakes as other movements. Even like as great as the Black Panther movement was, and as great as the Civil Rights movement was, it wasn't very inclusive of people who weren't straight or who weren't men, right? And so there's a lot of straight Black men assuming and recreating the power dynamics of white supremacy as well in that space and patriarchy. So I think like to take those tools and figure out how to be more inclusive of Black people and people of color of all intersections, right? And how to make sure that we're being mindful of the mistakes that were made and how we can like use what was working and then build on that. And then, you know, I think that's the most important, to like not recreate history. That's the only thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off of Joshua's comment, visibility matters. I'm not too far removed from 27. So I feel like even for my generation where we were like kind of grown, but not really. So I knew life without a cell phone, and then I knew life without a cell phone. And so having that intersectionality, that duality is super important. I think having first and foremost visibility, making sure that everyone, as Joshua said, is included is one of the biggest things. And with that visibility, showing different ways that mental health can be approached, I think is one of the biggest ways, because so many people think that mental health has to be fixed or has to be supported in this one way, when there are so many ways, and showing those ways. Dancing is a form of mental wellness. Athletics is a form of mental wellness. And so just really giving visibility.
Thank you. Thank you so much for yeah, go ahead, Dr. Tego.
I think what is key for the youth agenda would be voice. So having an opportunity for young people to continue to have their own imagination and collective hope leading the way. So young people being involved in how services are shaped, in being able to create new paradigms, like new ways of thinking and doing this kind of work. I think that that's really important. And I think young people being at the helm of policy creation, I think is really important, so that we can have the world that young people deserve to live in. And I think it starts at how people are able to be well and how people's lived experiences get to be valued. So I think that's a really important piece, is the space for people, for voices that aren't commonly heard, to be centered.
Thank you.
And joy, centering joy.
Thank you. I think that's something that's 1000% important. Still on this topic of the youth agenda, moving forward, what types of additional support can help young people moving forward with this youth agenda? Additional support that they could search for, or they need, or they should know moving forward with this youth agenda.
I'm eternally confident that the youth are going to make changes that our generation has not been able to accomplish. I think that the youth are well equipped with the technology to really make some changes today. And the only thing that I would say to our young people is really write their plans, write their goals in concrete, and write their plans in the sand. I need for them to be adaptive and flexible, because these powers that oppress we as a people are shapeshifters. They will shift with you. So from generation to generation, they may take on and manifest in a different way. But we need to help the young people understand that not only do they have the tools, but they have the attitude, they have the impatience that we wasted, I should say, in our generation. I came after the baby boomers, but the fact is that, I just have a child who's less than a month old right now. And if they're still singing the same songs of We Shall Overcome that King used to sing when I was born, then I felt that my whole generation didn't push the envelope far enough. So I'm really charging and challenging the youth to really step up and really don't be impatient. Don't always have the patience and to say, oh, we'll get it next year, because justice delayed is justice denied. We should actually empower the young people to really make those changes. So whatever the goals you have for this coming administration, write it down and hold them accountable. You have time on your side. You have time on your side. So.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. And congratulations on your baby.
Your baby, yes, congrats. So this is going to be the last question. How do we address these problems without it being a trend or getting 15 seconds of fame? Because these days, essentially that's what it seems like things are becoming. It's just a trend, a way to get more likes and views and comments, and
I have a thought on that.
Yes.
Go.
We're taking Williams.
I would say quickly that let the trends happen. I feel like the way that young people are using social media, it's powerful. And so even if it's a trend for a moment, we don't have to discredit it because they're planting seeds. And so I think our job then is to water what was once a trend so that it can grow roots and then surface again and again and again as it needs to. Surface it with love and mentorship.
I want to say very quickly, don't stop. Because with social media, like the iceberg tip effect, like just because you see it on social media now doesn't mean it's not something that's been happening for years or it's not going to continue for years. So if we learn anything from NIP, it's the iceberg tip effect. Like if you have for 15 seconds, keep going. And like, you know, Dr. said, continue to survive the trends and then also survive the droughts, right? Like people that we think, you know, we always see them in the news. We may not know that they went several years without putting something out there. So at the end of the day, as long as you're creative, as long as you're intentional, and as long as you don't stop, whatever it is, just do not stop. I think that's how you survive that. And that's life. That's not just social media. That's life. If you're able to survive when it's up, survive when it's down. In sports, for athletes, you got to be the same when you're losing and the same when you're winning. And the only important thing is that you do not stop. So that's what I would say. Keep going. Don't stop.
And also, we can learn from some of the trends of the past and see some trajectories. We can learn from some of the trends, and we can learn to tell the future without reading palms. You know, we don't need to read tea leaves. We can actually see how the administration and how other administrations have failed us. And we don't need to do the same thing. You know, if we know that they're going to wait us out and they're going to wait for, you know, ask for us to come up with a leader within a 1 month period so that the governor can meet with a young person. That's really an old tactic that has been going around since the 60s. We really need to recognize that, and we really need to say, you know what, we're not going to fall for that same trap. And that's in your hands, young people. I'm charging you. You're advertised into a war that's already in progress.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. He's really lighting that fire on the young people. Thank you for sharing with us. Unfortunately, this has come to the end of the Dropping Gems segment. I would like to say, I don't want it to end either, and I'm pretty sure the comments and our viewers don't want it to end, but we have come to the end. I would like to say thank you to the experts for your contributions. I have learned a lot personally. Thank you, Abasiono, for co-hosting this segment.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for the great questions. Thank you for an active comment section. And yeah, I hope we could do this soon and we get that reading list, right? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, my esteemed colleagues, and thank you for the young people. And thank Ms. Smith and Yesenia and everybody who put this on.
Thank
you, Rita.
Thank you.
Bless.
Hey, we are back. No, I don't think
we are.
Well, pretty much is, actually. You can clap. My sister's clapping. Come on, applause, guys. There you go.
All right, Sue, take over.
All right. Yeah, so thank you, Helen, for sharing that information. We on there? All right. How? I feel like we're missing a part. All right. Sorry, y'all. How many of you know how important voting is? Not just presidential elections, but local elections, such as council members, district leaders, and also NYC's next mayor.
I'll be honest, I'm not as knowledgeable in local, voting things. And I feel like since this youth agenda was introduced to me, that's when I actually started doing more research personally on the importance of not just voting for presidents, but voting for the governor and the mayor and etc.
Yeah. So I also think Helen is on here with us. So she's sharing something. Hi, Helen.
Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm here. Thank you for having me here. My name is Helen. I'm a We Power NYC ambassador for NYC Votes, which is a city agency dedicated to making sure local elections are fair and accessible for New Yorkers.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Helen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so
Helen, are you sharing that information with us?
Sorry?
Are you sharing any information with us? Voting?
Would you like to share any other information with us?
So we do have a PowerPoint prepared, and we do want to inform young people on the importance of voting, not just nationally, but also locally. So let me begin. So can you move to the next slide? Okay, so right now you're looking at the election deadlines. So at this point, the voter registration deadline has passed. And for those who are registered, you have 3 ways to vote: by mail, in person during early voting, or on election day. So if you choose to vote by mail, there's a 2-step process. You have to request a ballot and submit it at nycabsentee.com. And you should not wait until October 27th to submit your ballot, or you may not receive it in time. And you also want to mail this ballot, you can mail it yourself, or you can drop it off at any poll site, which requires no postage. You can also vote early, and early voting is this weekend. So it's just like voting on election day. However, there is most likely a different voting site. So you should check voting.nyc to make sure that you are at the right voting site. And you can also vote on election day. So polls are typically open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So as long as you're in line by 9 p.m., you can still vote. So young people face many issues, and our elections impact the issues we as young people face daily. So in this election, we are not just voting for a president, we are also voting for Congress members, state Senate, state Assembly, Queensborough President, NYC Council District 37, New York State Supreme Court, and New York City Civil Court members. We all know that the president is a very important role, but our local and state representatives impact our daily lives just as much, and they also have huge influences on issues that we care about, such as mental health and handling of the pandemic. So one of the themes of today's town hall is mental health. So how specifically can local officials impact New York City mental health policies? So for example, they can provide resources such as housing and healthcare, and they can also pass legislation to expand local access to health services and also increase affordable housing options across the boroughs. And in terms of our criminal justice system, they can also, which includes the district attorney, they can also affect how people with mental health issues are treated within the legal system. And in terms of the pandemic, we know that different states are affected differently, and that a lot has to do with the local policies that are instilled. And our state and local governments have a huge impact on the pandemic that is currently unfolding in New York. We know that minority New Yorkers are dying at disproportionate rates compared to white New Yorkers, and our state representatives can pass legislation to provide stimulus checks and also health and safety procedures. At the local level, our city council members can also work to ensure that all students have the resources they need to succeed remotely. So myself being a student, I understand how important it is for our local governments, such as the Department of Education, to instill policies that will have a huge effect on my learning. So finally, I would like to urge you guys to, if you are old enough, to take the NYC Votes Pledge to vote. By doing so, you'll get updates and reminders about deadlines and elections. You can visit nycvotes.nyccfb.info/vote2020, or you can text vote 2020 to 917-979-6377 to pledge yes. And also make sure to follow NYC Votes on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for very important election updates. Or you can also visit voting.nyc for more relevant information. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. That was
Thank
so
you.
great. I love to see youth involved in that, especially because the rate right now for youth voting is so low.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for
Thank you, Helen.
sharing that information.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so bringing it back to what we were saying before is how many of you know how important voting is, not just the presidential election, but the local elections, such as council members, district leaders, and also the next NYC's mayor.
I also think saying that I think that voting is what we are talking about. You know, it brings us back to what we are here about the youth agenda. The voting is important. When the youth presents an agenda, we give it to those local representatives, and then it grows from there. So we gotta pay attention to the voting and who we actually put in office from the local sectors before it grows on to the higher sectors, to the state level, and then the federal legislators. So voting is definitely important, and if you're of age to vote, please vote and please elect people that the young people need, because we need this youth agenda to move, and we need them to pay attention to our voice. So thank you very much. Also,
yeah. So what do you want elected officials to consider?
What do we want elected officials to consider?
Yeah.
I suppose what we've been talking about all day, the health, wellness, and wealth actually of minorities. I say that in air quotes. People of color, Black people, youths. These are things that they should be considering. So essentially, education. You know, why are certain people of certain groups, certain ages, dropping out of high school? You know, what are the resources that are not being provided to us? What do we need? Essentially, how can we get the youths to put themselves in a better position of being successful in the future and actually attaining their personal goals, not just the goal, which is the agenda that's given to us by either the system or by parents. How can we get, these people to get to the point that they want to be,
Yeah, for sure. We also need them to consider our agenda, and we're gonna hold them accountable for doing that, because we voted for them and we put them in office. So the very least that they could do is repay us for by considering our youth agenda. So thank you for that contribution. Also, here are some resources if you're looking for information or support to mental health. You could visit nyc.gov /youth town hall, nyc.gov /youth town hall. So please, for more resources, make sure we click that. The link is also in the comments for YouTube. Is that the same link? So just make sure you pay attention to that. nyc.gov /youth town hall for more resources.
Thank you.
So this is to anyone watching this. Please take out your phones and scan the QR code for the evaluation. We need your feedback. These town halls are for us, and the agenda is supposed to represent our priorities. So this QR code is how y'all feel about what you just watched and what do you want to see later on. It takes 2 minutes. The link can also be found in the comments.
Yeah, it's just a survey, so please make sure to answer. I just put so take out your phones and just scan the QR code, and please fill the survey for us. Thank you. We'll just give them a second to do that real quick. So please do that. Scan the QR code.
I'm on that though.
All right. So we are slowly coming to the end of this town hall event. I would like to thank our partners. Their logos are displayed on the screen right now. So thank you so much for putting such a great event for us. This is a mental health workshop. Oh, there is a mental health workshop on the 18th of November that we hope you all attend. If you enjoyed what we just saw, this is young people trying to affect the community and affect the community for a change. So on the 18th of November, that's also a mental health workshop. So please be sure to attend. You'll get more information about that. Mark your calendars. The next town hall will be on December the 16th. The next town hall will be December the 16th. So this is the ending of one, or we also have another one, December the 16th. So make sure you take out your calendars and circle that date and mark it Youth Town Hall. December the 16th will be our next town hall meeting. So thank you. Please make sure you join us on that date too.
Yeah, if you want to get involved with the town halls, please follow DYCD's social media pages or email us at dycdcommunications@dycd.nyc.gov. Now, I don't know if y'all wrote that down, but it's somewhere over there. You guys want to look at our Insta and everything.
Of the page, I think it's displayed on the screen. You can also take a photo of it and make sure you follow them. Those social media pages.
Thank you for joining us. Remember, complete the evaluation, visit the website for our resources, and stay connected.
Thank you for joining us. We have come to the end. I would like to say, be the change you want to see in the world. Both young people, both grown people, both adults, grown people, elderly people, senior citizens, everyone, be the change you want to see in the world. If you want something to change, please let it start from yourself. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we have come to the end of this town.
Thank you, Sue and Abube, for hosting us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay. Oof. Good job.
I think we're still